So we're going to have a quick panel discussion, and so we'll find out a little bit about who the artists are, and in particular what we'll be painting, what we'll be experiencing. I think some of the murals are finished. I think some are, ongoing. There are street art tours on Saturday, so we'll be having a look at those, which is going to be very exciting. Rochdale suddenly, finding its way in the. I mean, from 2019, we had some good murals then. And I can tell you, we're going to really add to that. It's going to be some spectacular pieces. Looking at the quality on the panel. So, who have we got? I'll do a quick. So I'll introduce them. I'm going to pass the microphones on, and if you could just say a little bit about yourself. So we've got Faye from Street Art Atlas, who is our street art photographer, one of the best street art photographers in the UK, and she's here with us today, which is amazing. We have Aylo, our festival director, and Rochdalian? Yes, Rochdale lass, who is, the powerhouse behind this brilliant festival. And we have Smug, all the way from Australia via Glasgow. I think you might know somebody who's going to be painting a huge piece, I should imagine. I haven't seen it yet, but I know it's going to be massive, and I know it's going to be great. We've got Insane51 from Greece, who I know is going to be also painting a spectacular piece for us. And then finally, from down south from London, we got EPOD. Hello, EPOD. So we'll pass the microphone. You've got the microphone first, so I think a little bit of... so you can't hear me here, but you can hear me here. So just hold it relatively close. So EPOD, starting from you, can you tell us a bit about yourself as an artist and how you got into what you're doing?
Okay, yeah. So I'm based just west of London. Sort of been doing this since, I guess, sort of late 90s. I guess got into graph probably around that time, but it was music that led me into it. I was very much into hip hop at the time, still am, and yeah, there's always been a kind of a big musical connection with what I do, so the two things just went hand in hand really. So I grew up sort of painting and drawing all the time, and then it was just like a natural transition into graph really. I was always sort of doing characters and things, and then it sort of led into more sort of bigger murals and pushing this more sort of fine art side of things, which I was sort of taught in college and things. So it's a sort of a merge of all of the things that not only I studied, but I was interested in. So.
And when you look at your work, how might people note the different influences that would be within your murals? Because you mentioned influenced by hip hop and obviously music more generally, but sort of the 80s vibe as well.
Well, yeah, there's a kind of sort of a 70s glossy kind of feel to it that I try to put into my work, but also a kind of nod to some of the old kind of classical sort of master paintings because what I try and do is have that sort of combination of something that's really quite old and classic and feel like it's been there for a long time, but then add like real modern elements into it, like musical hardware and references to music, modern music. So that's how I think you would kind of get to see or understand, my part, my stuff from anything else. Really.
So there's a lot of different styles going on there, basically, a lot of different mixes.
Yeah, there's a real kind of a mix, but I think it's kind of like you would kind of see a familiarity in a lot of my work. So it's kind of it is a mixture of things that inspire me, but familiar at the same time.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Shall we hear from Insane? We're gonna go back and find out a bit more about the specific Rochdale pieces at the moment. But Insane, do we call you Insane? Is that?
My name is Stathis, which is Greek, or you can call me Insane. I think both of them are a bit weird, so it's up to you. Stathis is my real name. So I'm an artist from Athens, Greece, born and raised, and still stuck there. And I started my I don't know if I can. I was doing graffiti back then. I started in 2006. It's not graffiti anymore. It's more like painting on a wall. And I was a very energetic kid and always getting in trouble as a young kid. And then I played a video game, and that was about graffiti. And
Which video game?
then Mark Akers getting up. So I just started painting graffiti, and that's how I got into art. And then I started focusing my energy into something creative instead of, I don't know, going around with my bike and getting into trouble. And well, my style is 3D, so it's basically a blue image and a red image, one on top of the other. And then with the use of 3D glasses, you can separate the layers, and basically, you know, each lens reveals the different images. So that's my signature style. I started with graffiti and realism and letters, all that, and I ended up with this style because I wanted to have a unique identity that stands out.
It really is a unique style, and I think that everyone will notice that when the fact that you have to wear 3D glasses as well to wear it, which is super cool. How did you develop it?
Well, you have to wear 3D glasses, but we have a QR that you can just scan it, just in case. Well, I'm a big fan of movies, and I just watched, I think it was Avatar. You know, the movie Avatar, and I watched the 3D version. And obviously it was with the new school 3D glasses that are clear, but then I bought the old school red and blue 3D glasses, and I started experimenting with some 3D techniques. I just, you know, saw some videos on YouTube, and with that technique I learned how to do anaglyphic images, which is basically, it's the same image split into red and blue, and then one is a little bit apart. So with the 3D glasses, you can see it anaglyphic, you know, it pops out. And I painted this on a wall, and it worked, but you couldn't film it with a phone. And then for people that have problems with their eyes, just even one of their eyes, you can't really see it, so it didn't make sense. And then I figured out that I can use two different images with the same technique, and then it works out, and you can use one lens at a time and one eye at a time. And then the rest is history, I guess.
And where did the name Insane come from? Insane51.
Well, I was very young. I was still doing graffiti back then, and it was easy for me to sketch, you know, those letters. And I wanted to have a tag with a meaning. And the 51 is part of the postal code from my area. So it's like insane from the area 51, not with the aliens. The area in Athens. The whole code is, the postal code is 15121. So I kept the 51.
Brilliant. Thank you, Static.
Thank you.
So shall we hear from Smug? Hi, Smug.
How you doing?
And do we call you Smug?
Yeah.
See, I love the conversation. The dinner table conversation. Hey up, Smug, how you doing? Yeah, you. What's your name? Insane.
Well, I came in with a strictly graffiti background, so I always separated my real name from my tag. But the Sun blew that up with an article, so now if you Google me, you can find that my real name is Sam. So you can call me anything you like. It's a bit weird to hear people calling me Smug, especially people I've known for a very long time that keep calling me Smug. Yeah, so I'm originally from Australia, where I came in with a very similar background of EPOD with hip-hop and skateboarding and things like that. I was actually, I was like hardcore tagging for years and years before I even thought about using a spray can. I didn't realise you could use a spray can. We were just using homemade mops and markers and just bad, you know. And then I found spray cans, and everything was big and quick and immediate and just dominating. And so I just started geeking out on how to use the spray can. And so I started with strict block letter graffiti, and then tried to manipulate that as much as I could, try to work with the spray can to make it do what it's not meant to do. And worked my way through blocky letters to wild letters to 3D letters to abstract forms, and then with my characters from manga-looking characters to b-boy hip-hop to semi-shaded to semi-realistic to full-on realistic. So I really geek out on things being difficult, and I find realism is probably, I think technically it's probably the most difficult thing to achieve. Because it's something that we all recognise, we all look at people, and especially faces, because we all look at people's faces constantly, and it's human nature to look for faults or flaws. And I mean, it's a sad part of human nature. But because of that, if I paint a portrait and one eye is slightly off, every single person sees it. And not saying that any of my murals are perfect, everything is completely wrong. Like, there's so many mistakes everywhere. But you need to make it look organic and make sense. And that's super, super challenging. So I really get off on that. And trying to get the tiniest little lines and speckles out of a spray can, it's really difficult, so I really enjoy that. But yeah, anyway, back to the start. I was originally from Australia, but I've lived in Scotland for 22 years now.
And you're known for painting massive, so when I think of your work, I think of the stuff, well, obviously in this country, but in Australia, and if you Google Smug, you'll see these huge silos, like grain silos in the middle of nowhere, and they're the biggest walls I think I've ever reasonably seen. How do you get up to something like that and paint at that size when you're so close to the walls?
What do you mean? You mean like in the grand scheme of things, how did I start getting big walls?
No, I'm interested in the sort of so imagine you've got this massive grain silo in the middle of nowhere, and you've got to get up and you've got to paint something like that. How do you do that? How do you even develop that technique?
Well, those big silos, they are the hardest surface to work. I start one next week, which is great. I hate them. I mean, they're really tricky. You because they're curved and it's multiple tanks. You can never get it to look perfect. You know, if you just have a flat wall, you can make it look right. But when it's moving over multiple tanks, there's so much distortion. It becomes really sort of anamorphic, where it might look good from one spot and wildly wrong from another. I was showing a video, was it to you? Of a child that I painted on a silo earlier this year. And when you stand front on, the face looks all right. And you walk 20 metres in that direction and there's this huge tumour hanging off its forehead. And likewise with the mum, you stand front on and she looks all right. You move 20 metres that way and her beak is like the person out of Beetlejuice, you know, it's crazy. So it's really, really, really difficult. I mean, look, it'll take me an hour to explain.
Yeah.
But it's a constant challenge, and it's not something that I've worked out. Every silo I do has its own challenges for them. So yeah, it's tough.
Sounds like something you just got to keep doing it, and you learn each time, I suppose.
I don't want to keep doing it. But this is the curse of doing these big walls. Like, I don't enjoy big walls, but that's generally what I get. I mean, I just completed a wall in Glasgow that people are saying it's the third biggest in the UK, which is cool.
Third, nothing.
Might
You've
not
got
be the tallest, but it's the bigger in area. It's not about the size, okay? But look, I mean, it's cool. It's such an achievement to stand back from doing these huge, big walls. But they're hard work, man. Like, they're exhausting. And I'm getting older every day, and I feel it. And because I'm wise, that's why. But it's you start doing these sorts of projects, and that's what you're offered. So I wouldn't choose these. I mean, give me a wall the size that I'm doing here. This is the smallest wall I've had for a while, and it's kind of fun because it's small. You know, like I gave myself a week. I could have done it in a couple of days, maybe. So it's kind of fun. Because normally I'm the first one up, I'm the last one there.
Yeah.
And I'm the last one on site at the end of the festival. You know, everyone's finished and having a fun time, and I'm like, oh man, I still got 6 hours to go.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. And is your wall still the biggest? No, the second at least.
No, they didn't. It's not even second.
Oh, shocking! It just keeps getting more and more.
It wasn't even beaten by a little bit. Ours was 47, and then they outdid it. The next one was 80 metres high. So it's like, can't even have that boast anymore. No.
But at one time, you did have the biggest wall in the UK, didn't you?
Tallest.
Tallest.
Yeah.
So, Aylo, Hayley Garner from Rochdale, how are you doing?
I'm good.
And tell us about, tell us about the festival and everything that's going on here. And you started it in 2019, and now we're here again.
Yeah, so we did our first one in 2019. And that was a great festival. I learnt a lot of things, not to do with a festival, which one is don't paint your wall while the festival's on, because it's a nervous breakdown, like it was horrible. And off the back of that festival, there was a point where I thought maybe it's not going to happen again. Lockdown happened, funding started getting pulled from community projects and stuff, so when the guys at Rochdale Creates and the council got in touch to do the next one, I was like, yes, let's boil the socks off the last one. And I don't know why, but these guys all said yes. So I was buzzing. I only asked them once as well. I thought I might have to do some, brown lettering. But yeah, I sent a few text messages out, invited some artists that I followed and had the pleasure to paint with, and met on my journey around the world who I've looked up to, and we call them Smug for a reason. And to do it in my hometown is special, and to bring these people here to kind of help me create something, hopefully that will carry on. It's different painting at home. It is, it's different. And I just hope it carries on and we can build on this and inspire other people to paint, and I don't really know what else to say about it.
Well, I think that's one of the things about the Rochdale festivals. It's always been there's been a local feel, there's been a community feel very much, and I think that really helps the fact that you are from this town, which is amazing, and you've got this passion, this love for this town, but also because you can attract amazing artists that come to do it. I mean, it's no mean feat.
No, I don't know why, but I think you kind of. I think it's different when artists plan festivals. Like I've been to some festivals that are planned by people who don't paint, and it's a completely different feel. And I always look forward to the ones that I'm invited to who I know they're artists, so I know they're gonna know what artists need. And I was really grateful the council actually really listened to me when I told them it needs to be focused on the artists and what they need, and we need to have everything they want, because quite often it's not easy, is it, painting big walls? It's hard work, the weather's horrible sometimes, you're up against something, but if you have someone there who knows and has been through it, they can kind of soften the blow and prepare that extra bit. I mean, we've got marquees on the walls, it's the least I can do, and umbrellas and all sorts of stuff. I had a chair on Smug's lift, but it was a bit too much, wasn't it? You're not that much of a diva.
I'm not that lazy.
I was like, get a chair, mate. You can paint through the bars. Sat down, it's great. But it just proves I'm that lazy.
And what about your own style? How would you describe your own work?
I think I'm a bit of a storyteller. Like my murals, they've got a lot going on. It tells a lot of stories. They mention a lot of things. There's Easter eggs in there about different stuff, Like this one, for instance, it talks about the cooperative movement. It's quite often it's heritage. I like to research. I like to geek out. I like to find out what's happening in the spaces that I'm painting. And quite often, it's not somewhere I've grown up. I've been surrounded by the heritage and the history. You learn a lot about the co-op living here. Everybody knows the co-op. You taught it in school or whatever. But when I go to other places, I like to do that digging and find out what that place is known for, what's happened there, where are the stories, and then kind of create a piece that tells that. And it's not always obvious, and I like people to stand in front of it and take what they want out of it. And quite often other people's stories are far more interesting than the one I'm telling. So, I don't like to tell it too much. People always want to know, so it'll go on my Instagram. But I like to ask people, what do you see in it? And the kids are the best ones to ask, because they come out with the most crazy stuff. But so a bit of a storyteller, really, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of I love that. I'm so grateful that you write those Instagram pieces, by the way, because otherwise, I don't know where to start. There's so much in them. There's so much going on. But I think I love that. The one thing that is this heritage element and the fact that it feels like the whole research bit is such an important part. Because you don't just like flick through a few Wikipedia pages. I mean, you're really researching this stuff so that when you get to the wall, you know exactly what you're doing. It's relevant to the area, and it's telling that story.
I think as well, because I've painted in a duo for so long, we have to know exactly what that wall's going to look like. So we do we used to talk a lot and research a lot, and we started originally Nomad Clan. We'd work just from a pencil sketch. There was no colour or nothing until we got to the wall, and we'd order the same paint, and we was bouncing so quickly to the next festival. We'd just have a set colour of paints that we would just send the order off. So we just went off a pencil sketch. But then it became more and more difficult as our styles were blending more to kind of, I think, understand what was in each other's head. So we had to kind of render it almost to a complete finish, what it would look like on the wall. So we could both go off our separate ways and paint it and it look so we had an understanding of what was in each other, because sometimes it was completely different, and I'd start filling something in one colour, and we'd meet in the middle, and I was like, oh, right, well, you thought it was blue, and I thought it was pink, so we had to kind of get it right before we went to do it. So I think a lot of the prep, I probably prepare more than most people now. Everything is almost I know where I'm putting it when I get to the wall, but that's the same with the research. I like to know. I kind of spoil it for myself a little bit, because magic happens on the wall. The stories change, or you meet somebody and they'll tell you another thing and you throw it in there. So I don't know, maybe I've over-tuned it too much, and I need to reel it back a bit and have a bit more fun. Now I'm painting on my own, I can do that. I can step a bit out of that and just be a bit more free, I think. And I think that's probably where it's going to go eventually. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hayley. Thank you. And Faye from Street Art. So we've got Faye's a photographer.
That's
So
right.
tell us how you got into the street art world and doing what you do.
My journey kind of happened very organically. I started noticing street art around London in about 2005, and then I went off backpacking around the world for about 4 years and actually realised the global scale of it naively. And that's actually where I got into the graffiti side of it as well. And then when I returned to London, there was more of a sort of scene of street art by that point. And I would see these amazing pieces of art around London. And I'd be like, who the hell is painting all this? I need to know who is painting this art and what's their story, how they painting it. So for me, it wasn't a case of, I just want to go and get a final shot. I actually wanted to meet the artist and understand about the artist and their artwork. So I used to basically walk around Shoreditch at that time. And this is 2013 by this point, because I lived in Manchester and I wasn't really documenting in the very early days, I was just noticing it. And then when I moved back from Manchester to London, as I say, the scene was a lot bigger then. So I used to walk around Shoreditch just trying to find people to paint, which now I think is quite funny because there's so many people painting, there's so many festivals now, but it was kind of like a hunt to find someone painting at that point. And then I would just start talking to the artists, ask them if they would mind me taking a few photos. And then in exchange of that, I would send them my photos for free, they liked them. And then it got to a stage where more and more artists were actually letting me know when I was painting, and I would go along and actually document them paint. And then it's just kind of grown from there. But for me, I find it really intriguing to see how each artist has a different style, a different technique. For me, it gives me a greater understanding and appreciation for the artwork, because when you've seen it, when you're faced with a blank wall, as all artists are, and then at the end of the day there's an incredible piece of artwork, when you're there actually documenting it from the start, for me it gives a real appreciation what that artist has put into it. You're not just seeing a pretty picture on the wall. You know, a prime example is back in 2016 when Nomad Clan painted their first big wall in Liverpool. They had no budget, and we were basically sleeping on the floor in a squat. Every time we moved, the lights would come on. Yeah, it was crazy. But for me, that really sort of showed that what artists go through to actually create their art. So for me, that was really important. And each artist has their own techniques, their own style, and I find it absolutely fascinating to watch them paint. A lot of my friends don't understand it. They're like, "Oh, you're just standing at the wall watching paint dry." And I'm like, "No, it's not like that. It's getting to know the artist, spending time with that artist, understanding how they work and what actually goes into that piece of artwork." And for me, that is really important, and also documenting the scene, because the nature of street art, it's there one moment and then eventually it's gone. So all that's left at the end of the day is that photo or that documentation. So I think that's really important part of history.
I agree, and I think that's the role that photographers play, isn't it? And you know, street art atlas photographs you'll find everywhere, everywhere. And if you want sort of legacy in image, you've probably taken it. But it's moving from that. Have we got one? There we go. It's a street art atlas. It's even on your phone. It's moving from, the thing that I find interesting about your practice is that you've moved from the more general taking of the images, the final shots, to the documentarian. So it's not just going up and taking a few shots during the process. It's like you embed yourself with the artists, and you're capturing every moment of that wall, that creation.
Yeah, I think it's really important, because obviously, especially at festivals, people can't stand at that wall all day, whereas I obviously can't stand at every wall all day, especially at festivals, you've got to move around, but by documenting the process, it gives others a chance to see how that has progressed, rather than it just being a final image, which, don't get me wrong, that's very important to have, of course, but showing the process and how the artist has built that up, for me, I think that's very important.
Yeah, it's legacy, isn't it?
Yeah,
legacy.
100%.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll go back to EPOD, and we're going to find out a little bit about the what we're creating in Rochdale now. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you're coming up with?
Yeah, sure. So, just going back to familiarity in my work with the music and sort of a common thing that manifests into my work is a music inspiration. So that was really the starting point for me, was to get a catalyst that will give me that inspire the actual concept. So I started to look at songs in the area that were made in the area. And I found the song with the title that's really sort of jumped out to me, called "Totally Wired" by the Fall, and it was recorded in Cargo Studios around the corner. So that had a lot of sort of resonance with my work, and then I saw the space of what I was painting, which is this big kind of landscape sort of format, and I wanted to sort of get some real energy into that wall. So I started to sort of play around with ideas and think about the totally wired thing all the time. So that's how it kind of started. I come up with this idea of the subject is kind of hardwired into sort of some sort of audio source. You can't see it on the mural at the moment because I haven't got to that bit, but she's basically got sort of audio cables attached to her, and then the energy goes through her and then emits out of her fingers at the other end. So just using that whole landscape space to the full sort of potential, really.
And the song, the Totally Wired song, I think it's by the Fall.
Yeah.
Falls or Fall?
The Fall.
Fall.
Yeah.
reminds you what an amazing history Rochdale has for music, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's, you dig into the history, it's something else.
Yeah.
Why that song?
I just think it has so much energy, and I think when you listen to it, you know, it's kind of, you know, I'm totally wired. It's kind of, you know, the lyrics are just like, you know, yeah, you don't hear that often, kind of thing. So yeah, I wanted to really just, you know, the area itself it feels like it's something that's got potential energy in it, you know, and you can see it. There's a lot of buzz around there, and just a lot of flow and footfall. So I just thought, you know, take this wall that's, you know, massive wall that's got nothing on it at the moment, just punch it with energy. And I think that was the sort of thing that started, really. I saw that, and it just jumped out. That the title just jumped out at me, and I thought I could do something good with that.
Great. And what sort of reaction do you normally get to your work?
Well, thankfully, it's generally pretty positive. I mean, you know, it's yeah. I'm always quite surprised by people that you know, that just go out of their days just to stop and sort of really sort of compliment. And yeah, just edge you on just a little bit and just stop thinking like, you know, how's this sort of going? But no, I've got a lot of time for the people that actually just, you know, ask questions about it and stuff, because especially people that, you know, that travel past there every day and work in the area, and I sort of forget that they've got to look at this every day and they just want a little bit of information about it. So yeah, it's nice.
That's the great thing about street art, right? You know, that it belongs to everyone. That person that is walking past it every day, it's their wall, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And you take it for granted, really. It's like, you know, I'm just putting my stamp on something, and I'm just trying to, you know, it's kind of, what can I do in this space? But a lot of time I kind of forget that people, you know, you've got to look at this every day. So I'm really thankful that I can just put complete, you know, my thing on someone's wall. But when someone connects with it, and specifically like a local person, and then that's the best thing. You know?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Insane? Yep. So, let's hear about your wall. What is it that you're going to be creating for us?
Okay, so my wall is inspired by a poem called The Wild Wonders, that was actually written by a class of kids that we met in front of Smug's wall. They didn't come to my wall, although I used their poem. So we were given, you know, some material, like some songs, poems, and that particular poem, you know, was stood out. And the poem, I don't remember it exactly, but it's about planting flowers, wishing for a better future, change. So my design is a field of flowers, some clouds, and a man sitting like in the middle of the wall, looking down, and like maybe you can say he's depressed, but at the same time, well, that's through one lens, but through the other lens, it's actually it's about positivity and wishing for a better future. So I think it's important to, if you want to paint if you want your concept to be positive, it also has to be a little bit negative. So you have this contrast. That's what my work is all about. I think it's important to, you know, without sadness you can have happiness. And with the blue lens, you can see his skeleton like an X-ray. So yeah, that's what the wall is about.
And that's the great thing about your work, isn't it? Because you can see those two images very, very clearly, and you can say, okay, well, one's there, and you can see the duopoly between them, if you like. When you say, okay, I'm gonna create a mural based on a poem by school children, how do you take that poem and come up with that initial concept?
That's a good question. Well, I personally choose a few elements that I think they're interesting. So the poem, you know, is about different things, but I chose the, you know, wishing about a better future and planting flowers as my main elements, and then obviously a portrait with a skeleton. So if if you can find 10 different elements in a concept or a poem, I think it's good if you choose a few of them and not all of them. I think simplicity is better than complexity. So I think that were the interesting elements of the poem for me.
And what kind of wall and where is your piece?
Well, it's really close. I don't really know the area. Maybe you guys can help.
Just a
Oh.
Yeah.
Drake Street.
That. And it's actually in front of a parking lot, and it's a business. It's a clothing brand. I think it's a clothing brand, football clothing brand, and they were nice enough to offer their wall.
Wonderful.
And and it's a long wall.
And what sort of reaction do you normally get? Because yours is so interactive, you must get a lot of people enjoying that work in a different way that others do.
They usually ask me for the 3D glasses, and I don't hand them out until the end because I need to finish the wall for the effect to work. And I usually take my time and finish to the last minute, and then I go to the airport. So when I do have some extra time, well, it's interesting to see people, like discovering the effect, because that's what happens when you give them the glasses. They discover the effect, and everyone feels like a kid again, because it's like a game. You give them the 3D glasses, you don't really have to say much. Most people, their first instinct is to look through both of the lenses, and then they start closing one eye so they can reveal its design. And they're usually surprised, and most of them like it. Sometimes they don't like the skeletons, but that doesn't happen so often. It's usually positive.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Corey, before we go on, no. Like, for me, this is a really interesting question. So when you get a brief, like the poem, and then you think of a concept for your mural based on that, are you thinking of an image that pleases the kids that did the poem, or are you thinking of an image that fits more into your brand that you enjoy painting?
It's usually an image that fits to me, and what I enjoy painting. Selfish.
I think you knew what that answer was going to be. You said it.
No, it's good. I think that's the way every artist should work.
Yeah.
Can I say something? Guys, when I first traveled to my first mural festival in Europe, I painted a skull with, how do you call it? Second light?
A glow or something.
Yeah, anyways, that's his style. So then I met him. I was, way younger. And then I met this guy, and he looked at me and said, "Oh, it's you who's copying my skulls."
Yeah, because you did it well, so I was threatened.
So, Smug, tell us about your piece in Rochdale.
So I'm painting a local woman called Auntie Suriya, and yeah. No, so we were trying to think of someone to paint, and someone reached out that was suggesting her, and we went and met her, and we took a photo, and she fattened us up a lot with a lot of food, and yeah, I'm painting Suriya.
Was there some like a community nomination that was going on with this piece with Auntie Suriya?
That's you.
I don't know whether it was a mistake, but I did ask on Facebook if anyone had any ideas of who to paint, and then I was inundated with hundreds of people and hundreds of, I guess, like nominations, but then also a lot of people suggesting themselves, which I thought was a bit weird. And then
God loves a tryer.
yeah, the council also put some. There was a lot of people put forward. But Smug was you didn't want to paint anyone who was dead. There was very few, like no one who's dead. No one famous. You just really wanted someone who was normal, if that's a word to use. Yeah, take it.
Back, it's my turn now.
Now make it.
Your answer is no, listen, I don't like painting famous people.
Yeah.
I don't like painting dead people. I've gotten into a lot of trouble painting powerful people in the past. When the skeletons have come out of their closet, I don't do it anymore. It's really sketchy. And so I just like to paint like the person that lives next door. You know, I like to hero, you know, just the everyday person that wouldn't normally be sort of celebrated. And when you paint them, it's like you don't necessarily look at them and think, oh, is that person from TV? Even though someone thought that I was painting Big Les on this one, which was weird, because it's a woman. But I'm trying to paint someone that you can identify something in. Like, oh yeah, that just looks like a normal person that maybe I bumped into in the shop or something. I think that speaks louder. Those people aren't celebrated. They're kind of forgotten, especially older people. They're just forgotten, and I think that's a real shame. So I really like painting old people, and not only because I love painting wrinkles. So if I was to paint Aylo, she'd look 60. And so when I actually get an old person, it's fun because I don't have to hold back. But yeah, so that's why I jumped at the opportunity of painting Auntie Suriya, because she was, and look, she's so cute. Yeah, that's all anyone said when I was taking the photo. Oh, look how cute she is. I didn't say that because that'd be weird. Kind of infantilizing. No, but she's so soft spoken. She kept asking, why have you chosen me? Like, why me? And you know, that's sweet. That means that I want to paint them. All these people that put themselves forward, like, man, you couldn't pay me enough to paint them. But she was so confused as to why I would choose her, and that's exactly why I would.
So when you work with someone like Auntie Suriya, what's the process that you go through there in order to get that image to then put it on the walls?
Do you know, it depends. Sometimes I have a clear image that I want to do. Sometimes I will make props and have an outfit for them to wear. Sometimes I'll spend weeks working on things like that. And I know the exact angle that I want them at, and so I'll spend an hour or more trying to get what's stuck in my head. But then I'll end up using the one photo I took at the start when I said, don't worry about posing, I'm just trying to get the exposure right, you know, and that's the photo that I end up using. But with Suriya, she's a little bit older. I imagine she's not used to being like in front of the camera. So in those cases, I try to direct a bit less, and I just take the photos as quick as I can and try and get something natural, you know, just try and capture them as they are. And in this case, there's not a solid concept. It's not like, you know, can I get you holding up the hammer and nailing in the bit of wood to this thing? Like, there's no story like that. The story is just her. So I was just trying to capture her, just looking natural.
And more generally, because you mentioned about the people that you paint, they're normal people, and that's the great thing. I love the idea about you paint real people, massive, high on buildings, and that seems to be just like a celebration of just, you know, the everyday. I've always think about your work as just like a celebration of people, the everyday, who we are. Everyone in the street can probably see themselves in one of your murals, maybe, because they're normal people. How do you normally go about choosing who to paint? So this one, you obviously was suggested, but if you had your own choice.
But this was one of many that were suggested to me. So I chose her because she had an interesting look about them. I'm not overly keen on who they are and their story. I like to dig into that a little after I've chosen them to make sure that they're okay. But I'm more, I choose people based on their features. And that's the hardest thing, you know, because I want to paint unusual looking people, and most unusual looking people don't want me to paint them. And like, I'm not saying ugly, but just people with like prominent features. That's what I like. I mean, I used to exaggerate them. I used to give people big noses, big ears, bug eyes and stuff. But now I want them to naturally have that, so it doesn't look like I've sort of manipulated the image. But I paint a lot of people I know. Sometimes I pay for a model to come in, or I I often paint local people to the area. So I'll get people like Aylo to dig around to find someone. But then again, it's tough because when you travel to a certain country and you put a notice out saying who should we paint, it's, oh, you need to paint this famous person from this town, or you need to paint this person that did these things. And again, that's the last people I want to do. And like I said, I'm selfish. I just want to paint a cool looking portrait. And it's portraits that I paint. It's weird. Like, I just paint faces. Like, I'm constantly studying people's faces. Like, you've all had it at some point tonight where I've just looked at you in a weird way, and hopefully you haven't looked at me while I'm doing it, because it would look really strange. But I'm fascinated with faces and the way the light falls and the way I can put a different light source in there to exaggerate a certain angle. And it just so happens that by painting these things, then we get a story of that person that goes along with it. It's a happy coincidence, but it's in a selfish way. I just want to paint a cool looking face.
I love it. Thank you, Smug. Thank you.
Also, before I end this, Hayley, you were like playing yourself down a lot there, and I'm pretty sure I could speak for all of us on here that as soon as you reach out to us to ask us to come here, we would jump on that immediately.
I knew that. Yes.
Because we all respect you so much. We all love you so much. And and look, I was so comfortable with you the first time I met you. I mean, I told her she reminds me of my mum a little bit, even though we're the same age. But look, when an artist or a friend like you asks us to come and paint in their hometown, I mean, I trust you. So I trust that you would look after us. And of course, we would do anything to get here.
Oh, lovely.
Wow. Okay. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me.
That's lovely.
Sign your contract.
So, hello. That's lovely. Tell us about your mural that you've done.
Oh gosh, it goes on and on and on. So I'll give you the 30.
The potted version.
Limit, yeah.
There's a lot in it.
So I'm a storyteller, as we said. But this one, there's a couple of things in there. It's called Dreams Never End, and it's basically about women's rights in a way. So the cooperative, which was started in the building just there, they were struggling to get women involved. So they invented this woman called Auntie, and there's two characters in my piece. There's a modern day woman figure, and there's this like ghostly figure in the background. And the ghost figure in the background is Auntie. And so they invented this woman to encourage women to join the co-op. And off the back of her, women got their first vote on anything really. They were given the same rights as the men at the co-op. It was all about equal rights, good food, you know. And this was way, way, way before the suffragette movement. So like to think like that sort of history was happening in, you know, Rochdale, it makes me proud, you know, like this was something like, you've got to think what women's rights were like back then. They were like, you didn't have the right to work really, even though before the cotton trade, which was very male dominated, the linen trade was one of the things keeping Rochdale economy going. And that was often women at home because they could look after their children, and they were weaving linen. So there's a lot of, the mural also talked about that. It's all painted in blue tones, which are the flax flowers where you know, linen comes from. And when the cotton famine happened in Rochdale, the reason why Rochdale wasn't as devastated by it, because it was like a big thing, was because we had these trades that the women kind of kept going, like the linen and the wool. It's like, there's always been this kind of powerful woman in Rochdale. And my mum was a powerful woman, my nan was a powerful woman. My nan actually had a bit of random history. She owned the pet shop, which is either this bit of the building, so this was my nan's shop or something, or maybe it was the part of the co-op, we're not quite sure. And they had another shop over the road where they sold paraffin. Right. Very strange, but there you go. So I always was hearing stories about the co-op all the time. Growing up in Rochdale, you learn about it in school. You know, it's something we were proud of as a town. So I wanted to kind of talk about that in the mural. But the fact that it's called Dreams Never End is like, we're continuously having to fight for equal rights as women, and it's getting better, but quite often we'll take a step forward and then something happens like whatever, and we have to take a step back. And it's that thing of like our dream will never end as women to have those equal rights and be seen as equal. Quite often as women you have to talk louder in a room to be seen. I see it every day when I'm painting. Like my assistant's Jamie and I work with Chris a lot. Quite often I'm invisible and they'll automatically think it's Chris. I've had it before when people have presumed the guy taking the photograph of me painting has painted the wall and I'm there with a spray can, So it happens, But I think that's part of what's made those experiences a part of what's made me kind of push myself and try and prove myself in a male-dominated like scene. But it is changing. There's more women painting now. Like I think I don't have as much of an issue with it now as I used to. It's like angry, like feminist or whatever you want to call me. Back in the day, the crew I was in, which one of the artist who was painting Lee May, we had this crew together. It was called Tits and Tampons. Like we clearly had issues, and we used to go around painting tampons on boys' pieces all the time. That's literally what we did. And then I was like, I want to make some money out of this. I can't call myself Tits and Tampons. I'm not going to get employed. So we kind of changed and started taking a bit more thingy. But so it was important to paint that when I heard this story. And the thing was, I had another design for the mural which didn't have Annie Tweedale in it. And I came up here to talk to the guys at the Baum, see whether they wanted to do something like this here. And I thought, I'm just going to go into the co-op and speak to the girls there and just get some, because I knew it was going to be about the co-op. And I was just chatting with them, and the best ideas come from conversations. I would never have known about Annie Tweedale if we hadn't I just sat and had a good chin wrap with the women who were really passionate about the co-op. They know everything about it. And they walked me around and showed me all of the, stories, and they mentioned this Annie Tweedale, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So then I redesigned the whole piece to have her in it. And it just worked out nicely, but Annie wouldn't have been in it. It would have just been about the co-op. But that's such a cool story, and I feel like that's what I mean. I go down rabbit holes with the storytelling and the research, but it would have been something completely different if I hadn't just asked those questions. So
that curiosity that you had, and Annie Tweedale, the fact that she's a creation, isn't she? She's a
no one really knows whether she was real or not. But I think the story goes that she was. No one's got any kind of evidence as far as I know that she existed. But off the back of her, women got a vote, and women were getting well-paid jobs within the co-op and being given responsibilities that they were kind of held back from. And it was this thing that was kind of pioneered and started here. It's mad.
The piece that you've created here, it really goes deep into Rochdale's roots, which is similar roots to lots of towns in the north of England, textile towns, working class roots. It seems to me that a lot of your, I seem to think a lot of your influences come from those working class roots, comes from your experience growing up in a town like Rochdale. Because if you go across the north of England, there's murals that you've been a part of, and that is spectacular. Does that play a big part in how you decide to approach a wall and how you decide to research an area?
Yeah, I'm interested in history and local histories and stuff, and I think with No Man Clan we kind of fell into this heritage thing, and for a while it was like, oh god, here we go, churn it out sort of stuff, and another coal miner, another blah blah blah. So that's kind of why I wanted to dig a bit deeper with this one and find something that's a little bit different, or another story. But yeah, it is. I'm from Rochdale. I'm from a northern town. My granddad worked in a mill when he was 4, and built himself up and opened a business and a shop here on Toad Lane. I come from a family of that have come from those roots, from the coal mines, from the mills. So it's ingrained in me. So I've obviously got this connection to it, and that's probably why I find it easy to research, and because I feel like I'm finding a little bit more about me and my roots. You know, that might be why. I don't know actually. I just enjoy painting old things.
Thank you, Hayley. Thank you. So something a little bit different for you, Faye. I want to get your sense, because you've been around street artists so much. You have such a different perspective, a unique perspective. Every festival, pretty much. You know the street artists. You know things inside out. Why is this sort of thing important? You know, we're here in Rochdale. We're seeing these amazing murals. We're seeing this festival of art. Why is this an important thing to do? What does it give the town?
I think it's very important. I mean, hearing the artist stories, that in itself illustrates how important it is, because it's celebrating a community, it's celebrating people that may not always be put there to the forefront. I've seen it time and time again where artists paint someone that's not famous. I mean, I totally agree with Sam that, you know, a musician dies and there's certain artists, I'm not going to name any names, that have got their stencils already and they're out there painting them. And I just find that, you know, I don't particularly like that myself. So to paint someone who's not well known, that's not celebrated, I think that's really important. It inspires communities. It makes people proud of where they live and of their area. As Aylo was saying, that, you know, celebrating the heritage of an area, I think is really important, especially for a younger generation that might not be aware of that heritage. I mean, one of my favourite stories is a community project I help out on. It's in the way of, sorry, I'm sort of backtracking a bit here, but there's always a story that you don't always hear, or you don't realise how that artwork has affected someone or necessarily changed their life till maybe it's gone. An example of that was, there was a piece of artwork on a project that I help out on, and none of us was really aware of the impact of this artwork till it had gone. And we was approached by this teacher at a school who was really upset that this piece of artwork had been removed because it was of an elephant, an artist had painted, and she was a teacher of a school with children with autism. And when the child was particularly stressful or needed calming down, she would take him to show him the elephant, and it would calm him right down. And then obviously one day she took him to see the elephant and it was gone. But it's these little stories that you don't necessarily hear at that point, and you don't know how that artwork is actually affecting someone. An artist might come and paint in a town and they've painted that and then they've left. But it's there left for someone to enjoy, and it inspires people. You never really understand how that is going to affect someone until after. Well, there's other stories, so there's always a much bigger picture, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story, and of course that could have only happened had because it's public art, right? And you can go and see that that elephant.
You know, it's not something you're going to get from a gallery space or something like that. So I think urban art, you know, art within a community, within different cities, is hugely important.
Yeah, and I always think the first time, well, not first time in Rochdale, but first time spending a lot of time in Rochdale was 2019 for Uprising, and did the street art tours there, which are a lot of fun. And the thing that always strikes me about that experience is we had all these people who were talking about the paintings, but we started talking just as much about the architecture and the history, because all the works that had gone on the walls had some form of connection to the town. So the amount of times that I heard, I've never noticed that building, I've never knew about that area, I had no clue what, and these were people that were living in Rochdale, right, living all their lives sometimes, and the sense of pride was just palpable. It was unbelievable. It was like, wow, yeah, I'm really happy to know about this. So I always think about, when it comes to street art festivals, particularly when it's in a place where people own the public space, and they're as you were saying about the interaction element. What story is it telling them? Is it helping people to look at the town in a certain way, the architecture in a certain way? So they're going beyond, if you like, the painting. So, well, I think what we're going to do, we're going to go and open this up to the audience. But before we do, can I just have a big round of applause for our fantastic panel? Wow. So I don't know how we do this, but does anyone have a question that they would like to ask anyone on the panel about anything?
Great.
Yes. Okay. Let me
For you, actually.
let me give it to you. There you go.
Oh no! Right. Okay. Thank you. That was absolutely amazing. So my question for you is, when you were talking about the silos, because I've not seen any of these works, but I'm going to be looking them up with it. And you said that they can be viewed in different ways depending on where somebody stands. If somebody takes a photograph from what you would have thought was potentially the wrong angle, you know what I'm going to say?
Disaster. That's the worst.
Does it get to you?
Oh, it destroys you. But listen, that's not just for these silos that have the curvature. It's even just for normal walls. Like, in my mind, there's an obvious spot to take a photo. I mean, because as the artist, we want our artwork to be viewed the most accurately, and I mean, it'll be like people standing side onto the wall and taking a photo of a brick wall where all you can see is glare and the colour looks like crap. And inside I'm screaming like, why wouldn't you just stand front onto this wall? Like, you're crazy, or stand between the sun so you don't get the glare. Or it's always frustrating because we can't control how our work is being shared. It's a strange art form that we do, and filters. But this is like one of the only art forms I know that we have such little control over. Because it's public. Even just being exposed throughout the entire process. I can't think of another art form, be it music. You're not hearing the song until it's ready. If it's a dance, you're not seeing it until it's ready. No one sees the practice dances. A chef's not going to ask you to taste how the onions are when he's chopping it before he makes it into a bolognese. You know what I mean? Yet our stuff, we're super exposed from the very start. And the one thing that we've kind of got control of is uploading the photo that we like to our Instagram. Not that I upload anything at all, but it's like the only thing that we've got control of. But then you see all over the internet, people are not doing what I haven't told them to do or anything. It's not like I've got a sign there saying, make sure you stand exactly here. But it can be frustrating.
Thank you. And do we have any other questions? Oh, yeah, over here. I'll give you first, and then if you can pass on to Sue.
Hayley, I was just curious before you were talking about the conversation before about where you would like to see this go, because obviously 2019 Rising lockdown, you managed to rebirth this along with a whole raft of other things that you're doing at the moment, particularly as part of our Town Portrait Programme. But for you as an artist, as a Rochdale artist, what would you like to see happen across this border, and how can we help, I guess?
Right, how long have we got? And who do I need to speak to?
I'm going to sit down.
You've opened the floodgates now.
I don't even know where to start, but I do have ideas. And I mean, one of the great things is when you doing this, you build connections everywhere, and everywhere you go, you kind of make a little family. So.
Not you.
It's okay.
Not you.
Something fell under your pipe.
Do you need to rescue it?
No, that's fine. So that was so weird. What the hell? Someone's trying to tell me something. So you make family, you make these connections, and I think one of the things I would like to do is to kind of connect Rochdale to these connections that I've made, and like maybe an exchange of some sort. So a Rochdale artist gets to go to somewhere, and we bring someone in from there. Like, that's one thing, But what I'd like to do with these murals is like keep them going, keep replenishing them. You know, some of them from 2019 are looking a bit old and tired now. Like, why not like continue doing this, but also build something that's got a legacy? So invest not just in these new murals and these artists. Like the reason I brought these guys here is because they're inspirational. They're the best. You know, like it's something for people to look up to. And there was a time when I was starting out painting where I was like, how the hell are you doing this? And it's by looking and watching people like these guys, you know, and going, I'm going to watch and learn, and seeing that they can do it and having conversations, you know, and breaking that barriers away where you're like, as a kid, you're just overwhelmed and you're like, oh, that's too much, I'll never be that good. But actually, you know, just having conversations like Tara, for instance. Tara came to my wall, I am me, mini Aylo.
I was waiting for my bit.
Tara came to my wall on, I think, like the third day we were painting, and she's like, oh, I've just started painting, like, I came to the first festival, and I was like, come on, get up the lift, I'll show you how to paint clouds. And, like, she helped me paint the clouds. And she's never painted realism before, and today, in 3 hours, she smashed out a realistic pigeon, and you can see it just off Bailey Street, peeping around the corner. It's amazing. And that just took a little bit of time, you know, and a little bit of conversation.
A little bit of your time and a bit of investment.
But you know, not much. It doesn't take as much as people think it takes. Like, all you need is just a little bit of time and kind word and a nudge sometimes. And you know, you're creating something she never thought she could create. You smashed it, mate.
Amazing.
Absolutely. And Jamie, for instance, Jamie saw me paint in 2019. Never painted before. He was a DJ. What was it, tinnitus? Like lost his, you know. Couldn't DJ anymore, and needed something to fill his time creatively. Started painting because he was inspired by what was going on in 2019. 5 years later, he's assisting me on that wall.
Brilliant.
You know, we had a studio together. I've seen him grow. It's incredible. And, like, you know, they're just two stories. Like, they're happening all the time, but you have to put these things in front of people. You have to show people, you know, you have to inspire people. Like, there's a lot, like, growing up in Rochdale, for me, I had to go and look for it elsewhere. I moved to Manchester first chance I got. I was running away, you know, I felt stifled, like I'm ADHD out of my head, and I'd just need stimulating all the time, and it just wasn't happening there. There was things happening, there was creative stuff happening, but I was never exposed to it. And I saw these things happening in cities, and I went and chased it. So as soon as I could get out, I was out. And it's a weird place, Rochdale, though. You run away from it, but it always pulls you back in, you know. And I see that in, you know, we took the kids around from the school, and talking to the kids, they just listen, you know, they love it. And it's something they can relate to, like street art, there's no boundaries to it. They can take what they want. You're not in a clinical white room being told what you should think about this piece. In a very, like, I don't know, like, I don't know what the words are, like, but, you know, it's intimidating sometimes to walk into those spaces, especially if you don't have the, you know, the education to understand it on that level that it's presented to you in, you know, a little tiny thing with all these big words that make no sense, and, oh, well, it's just a castle on a hill, but wow, what the hell? You know, like, you get to just sit in front of a wall, and you know, it's reclaiming spaces as well. Quite often we're stuck looking at this stuff all the time, but it's adverts, you know, it's stuffed in our face. The only colour you see in cities quite often is an advert selling you a burger from McDonald's. Like, you know, you put this artwork up on the wall, and it gives people a chance to talk about something. It gives people a chance to, like, get back into that creative child mind that's so beautiful, you know. So if I was to carry this on, I just want to do more of what we're doing.
There's so much, honestly, there's so much talent here, and I know that a lot of the artists are using music as an inspiration, and
Exactly.
you know, we're kind of, we've got a project coming up called Rochdale Music Stories, which is looking at all of those key tracks that were often recorded back in the day by white men.
Yeah.
And we're kind of looking at where those music, those songs could be reinterpreted by different artists, different art forms, and we're going to release that. Because it's about taking that heritage and kind of taking that point of inspiration and just reinventing it, rethinking it.
but there is so much talent here, and they're all Rochdale artists, music artists that are going to do that work. So.
And the thing I really liked about this is that the information that we gave to the artists, quite often we've taken other creatives' work and we've used that as inspiration, you know. And that just shows, you know, creativity breeds creativity. You know, we put it all in a pot. Let's just see what we can make, you know. And it's about working together, like that project you're doing. Let's put a mural in the mix, you know, and add another level to it, and all work together, you know, to create something special. Because we can all go off on our own tangents and gatekeep our own little thing. But why, when we can just throw it all in a pot and make something amazing?
I think we've got a question at the back from Sue.
Yeah. Comment on a question. I think Aylo's just answered most of it, but this is for Smug. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's really good listening to you. And this is for Smug. So I was nominated to have my face.
God, I recognise that joke.
A few times, not just once. But I'm really happy now. I can go back to them all and say it's just that my face weren't old enough. That's why Smug didn't pay me. So, listening to, is it Aylo, isn't it? Aylo, and what she's just said is absolutely true, because I also work with young people on a voluntary level in the area where I live. These are young people who are disengaged from school. You know, they're, for whatever reason. I work with 2 young people who've never been to school. Some young people are supposed to be in homeschool, but they don't get homeschooled. The parents just throw them out on the streets. So there's lots of antisocial behaviour. So what we decided to do, a lot of us have got together, and we decided to offer, all of us, between the groups on Langley, we've decided to offer some activities. So we offered out boxing, we've offered out sports, you know, football, and other stuff, loads of stuff. And loads of people have come together for this. The main one that most of them wanted to do was art, because thanks to Culture Co-op, thanks to Peter and his team, they've offered 4 weeks of graffiti art. I call it graffiti art. I mean, it's just the way where I come from. But it's not graffiti art, is it? It's street art. The young people like to call it graffiti art. We have lots of inspiration because there's lots of stuff been happening in Middleton. The list that we've got for all of them to take part in, the one that we can't, you know, we just can't, that we are overfilled, is that it's a street art. So I think it's one of those inspirations for young people who aren't engaging for whatever reason in school, but you bring them out and you give them a piece of paper, or you give them something to do. Some can draw, some might write lyrics to music. You know, that's another one we're offering, is music. And I think what you've just said, Aylo, is bang on. You know, these young people, they've got talents, they've got skills, they just aren't, you know, they just don't fit into the curriculum. So it's sort of giving them that kind of hope for the future. So my question is, with these young people, when they've done this 4 weeks of street art, how would we encourage them to go on and do bigger and better things? You know, I'm going to bring them up, I'm going to show them all the street art in Rochdale, I'm going to tell them about you guys. You've all got fantastic stories. So I'd like to go back and inspire them to carry on and do what they're doing, because you would not believe some of the art that these young people do. It's unbelievable. So did you get the question? Sorry.
Go on. Did you get the question?
No, but I consider myself a graffiti artist, not a street artist.
Yeah.
Street art's a new term. It's only been around 15, 20
Well, that's
years.
where to get it
So
from.
just stick with graffiti artist. I think it's better. But the question.
I think if I was to
Once they finish the 4 weeks, how would we inspire them to go on to do, you know, to go to college and do art, or maybe start up their own enterprise doing graffiti art?
I'm the wrong person to ask, because I've done no further education. I'm 100% self-taught. Most of us probably are.
Yeah.
I don't believe in education. I'm the wrong person to ask. But if they want to get a career out of art, you have to be obsessed with it. Like, it was an addiction for me. Like I mean, not so much now. Now it's like a necessity because I make money from it now. But before, when I was just doing it for fun, I lived and breathed graffiti. Like it was, and it's not about the art. It's about being creative, but it's also about, I don't know. It was new. It was exciting. It was for me anyway, and I just wanted to be the best. So I still kind of have that mentality a little bit. You know, I'm working on not having that, but I kind of. I mean, I made myself smug. But like, look, every day I do 20 drawings. I paint every day. I'd go out every night and I'd keep painting. But then when I started to do it for a job, then I had an extra 12 hours of each day that I could paint, and my skills skyrocketed immediately. You know, as soon as I started to get work opportunities where I did more of the realism stuff as opposed to, you know, the more looser fun stuff. Man, my skills skyrocketed straight away. And then immediately because of that, you get more opportunity, more people see your work, you get more opportunity. Everything's word of mouth. Like, I've never had a website. I've got a landing page. I was speaking about it earlier tonight. The I've never checked my website email once. Like, I'm useless. Everything's word of mouth. And I think that's probably the same for most art forms, you know. It's repeat customers, or it's people that learn your art form and your name. And like, personally, I don't think you need to be the best artist to get a career out of it. You just need to be dedicated. You need to put everything that you have into it. And I think that goes for anything. It doesn't have to just be art. It could be anything, you know. Like, if you're only gonna, you know, cook the one meal like a week, you're not going to work in a Michelin star restaurant, you know. But if you live and breathe that food, then yeah, maybe you will one day. And it's just a skill. Like, I know I'm good at what I do. I'm not going to be silly about it. I mean, I know I'm good, but I wasn't always good. Like, I didn't have a knack for realism. I didn't have a knack for any of these things. I mean, using the spray can felt a bit more comfortable compared to other art forms, but I learned how to do it, you know, and I grafted. I'm still grafting. So, like, I think if I had enough time, I could teach any one of you how to do what I do, like, as good as me. It just takes time. But they need to put the effort in. That's the number one thing.
Thank you. Oh, bit wet there. No, thank you, sir. I think that's quite an interesting, you know, question there, because if I may just jump in on that one, because I see that quite a lot with, you know, the work that I do. Interviewing artists, speaking to artists a lot, and a lot of people have come through an unsatisfactory schooling experience. Not the case for everyone, but there is a lot of artists that I speak to it's never been for them, but they've always had art has always been something that they've held on to, and that's been a very important part of their identity and who they are. To sort of directly, from my perspective, answer that question, what do they do afterwards? You give people an opportunity to learn, you know, how to do graffiti and whatnot. Create a space in town, create somewhere where people can actually go and practice. So then there's an outlet. In London, for example, in different towns and cities across, there's legal walls. And I think if you have legal walls, then you'll be able to keep nurturing that, and people will be able to go there and they will be able to practice and get better and better. And not only will they do that, they'll be able to meet other people who will. The great thing about graffiti art and street art, as I see, it's very inclusive space. So when you see artists painting together, it's not unfamiliar, that it's not unlikely that people will be sharing styles, like in the story that you just shared, and she's just gone. But sharing style, sharing knowledge, right? And, you know, I'll pick up a bit from you, and you're going to pick up a bit from me, and you know, and it keeps going around. Do we have any other questions? Okay.
So I don't think I need it.
Okay.
Have
a booming voice.
Yes. So my question is for all of you, really, is how do you maintain the pieces that you created? Like, I know and when you design, do you always thinking like you have like an expectancy how this will stay there for how long? Because especially now with climate change, you know, we have like crazy weather, like extremely heat, outburst events. So do you think that affecting your pieces because they are outdoors?
Shall we give EPOD this one? Then we move to Insane as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the time it depends on what medium you use, for one. It's kind of, I think spray paint generally is pretty hard wearing, and if it's my own process, generally the only kind of brush work I use is backgrounds and stuff like that. But even still, that's generally sort of masonry paint, which is just like, you know, it will last and last. I see a lot of paintings that certain colours will fade over time. UV will affect it, but in general, and in this instance, you know, Hayley's managed to, you know, they've buffed the walls so really well and done the research on making sure that, you know, that they will stand the test of time, and that's a big part of it. And I'm learning all the time about, you know, different surfaces and what best things to use. So there is a certain amount that you do have to think of, because you don't prep the wall well enough, then, you know, well, you're really going to struggle getting the paint on there, because it will just, you know, raw concrete will just soak up the paint completely. So there's a bit of work that you have to do, but in general, I don't see many. It'll take a long time for stuff to sort of flake off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they rip buildings down, though, don't they?
Yeah.
You get used to your work disappearing.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's part of the art to have this effect of washness.
Yeah. What about you, Stathis? What's your view on?
I love this question. So, because UV is my biggest enemy, and I think solvent-based paint, so spray paint, its biggest enemy is UV, and the worst color you can use is red. That's 50% of my palette. And I also started doing most of my murals in Greece, and we have a lot of sun throughout the whole year. So they will fade away unless you use my sponsor, Montana Black. No, I'm kidding. I personally... I personally try to use UV varnish that you actually have to reapply every 2 or 3 years, depending on the sun exposure. But it will fade. So as you said, everything is ephemeral. So it's a fancy Greek word. So it won't last forever. And even if you apply the UV varnish, maybe they take the building down, or maybe they build a new one in front of your wall. Happened to me. And I guess everything has happened to every one of us. So you just have to deal with it. I started doing more studio work recently because I wanted half of my artworks to last. Because looking back, I've been painting for 20 years now, and like a very, very small percentage of my walls exist. And it's kind of sad, but it's the reality. So part of the process, yeah.
Thank you. And shall we have just one more, I think?
Sorry, can I add to that?
Yeah, of course you can.
Come on, man.
Of course you can.
So
it's hot in Australia.
I think Australia, in my experience, has the harshest UV. So I see walls completely fade of all their colour within 6 months. So, and I paint in Australia every year. But the problem with me is my work is so big. The only thing to protect the colour is some sort of UV coating. And it's so much more expensive for that stuff in Australia than it is in Europe. It's so expensive. And they don't have an extra $200,000 to paint my giant walls because it takes that much. So I haven't used UV coating in Australia once. And my walls are so big that I can't do the whole thing with spray paint, which is my primary paint choice, because they're just too big. So I need to use house paint and spray paint combined. And so I try and I tint the house paint to match the spray paint, so I can still do the details in the spray paint, but the big fades with the house paint, and they're going to fade at different rates. You know, I think the house paint will fade faster, because the spray paint's like a lacquer. It's hardcore stuff. And it hasn't happened yet. My first big silo where I did using both sort of paints was about 10 years ago, and that still looks good. And the Montana Black Red still looks really, really nice, which is crazy. It was code red, which I thought would have faded really quick, but it was good. And that still hasn't faded, but I'm waiting for that day that I look at one of my murals and you can see all my spray paint lines contrasting with the house paint that's faded. It's a worry. And my style is very bold and saturated, and I don't think that's going to age as well as someone, like maybe your work, it's softer, and maybe if your tone faded, it could even look really cool. And I don't think that's going to happen with mine. I'm going to have certain colours that fade really fast and others that don't. And so it's going to, instead of going from light to dark, it'll go light, dark, you know? And there'll be a green slice going through the face, you know, which is, it's definitely a worry. But my work is just too big. No one can afford to do the necessary things to keep it in place. It's tough.
I think one of your recent murals actually was painted because the previous work on the silo had been so badly bleached by the sun, hadn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't just that. That silo, the artwork is primarily in the shade. And I've heard that lunar light has just as strong UV as the sun, which, I don't know, did the sun and the moon work on different sides? I have no idea. But no, that artist that painted the silo originally used interior paint. And that's why it looked horrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Aylo, do you want to take this one as well?
I don't really know what's left to say apart from you have to get used to. Well, I mean, a lot of us have come from the graffiti game. Things don't last very long, and even if you're painting legal walls, you're not doing it really, whatever. It's gone anyway. So you get used to your stuff disappearing quite early on, I think. I mean, I've just had a wall that I painted in Hereford. The render just came off. The whole mural's just on the floor now. And that, like, when I was painting the wall, I was like, "You sure you don't want to render it?" It was a festival they organised by non-painters, and they were just like, "Yeah, just crack on, you know." And I was touching the wall. I'm like, "This is going to come off." We told him, said, "This is not going to last," and he was like, "No, it's fine, you know." And it fell off the wall.
How long did it take?
We painted it 18 months ago.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
18 months ago. But I was touching the wall and it was moving, and I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we here? But they were adamant, it's fine. So it's just, I think, I mean, you get used to it. We've had walls completely just, the building's just gone. We did a massive one in Cheltenham. Should we go and photograph that one? One in the car park with the clock. I quite like that got destroyed because I have the video of it getting smashed with the swing ball, you know. And like, kind of pick up the next part of the artwork, you know. So yeah, I mean, you don't get too stuck with them. And quite often, like, I view my murals as kind of, I do them. The process is the process of painting is my favourite bit, you know. And then once you've got your documentation, it's going to live forever anyway, somewhere. And then it's like, you know, it's not for me anyway. Once it's done, it's not mine anymore. It's wherever I've painted it. So, you know, wherever I've painted it, it's probably more gutted than I am that it's gone, maybe. So, yeah.
Funny that it goes through its own little life cycle there, isn't it? Whether it fades or gets knocked down, or, you know, a wall gets built in front of it, something happens, time happens.
Can I add something? I recently had this conversation with a fellow muralist that is very, very old school, and he also painted a portrait that was red, and then it faded after maybe 6 months. So he started painting more desaturated or black and gray, so it can last. Like, do you do that on purpose? Like paint in black and gray so they will last?
No, but sometimes I'll use the wall because I like ghost signs. I like, you know, when you notice these kind of faded and it fits into the building. So sometimes, like, I have painted walls to make it look like that. We did one in Denver, and around the corner from you, actually. That one, they had a beautiful ghost sign in this corner of the wall. It was all like brick and battered, and like there was an old mural on it, and we left elements of that in the background. We painted like the Statue of Liberty's head all overgrown, so it kind of fit, you know. But yeah, so sometimes play with it, yeah, and sometimes like adapt it. Don't put as much paint on, because I know that that's going to fade first, especially with emotion. Emotion always goes done it rapid. So yeah.
Smug, do you also do it because of that? The desaturated colors that you use?
The saturated colours you do. Well, actually, look, I try and make my colours quite like natural and organic. I used to do big hot pink and purple glows and things like this when I was when people still thought of me as a graffiti artist, I'm a street artist. No, I think I went through a stage where I was really concerned about fading, so I was inspired by Guido, which is a different artist who uses really washed out greys. I mean, his stuff looks faded, but it's brand new. Because I was concerned about things fading. But no, I don't think of my stuff as desaturated now. It's just that I use warm greys for the reflective light, because when you walk down the street, that's the light that's being reflected on people. It's bouncing out from the ground or from a grey building. I'm not thinking about wear and tear. I'm just thinking about keeping things organic and how I see them.
And shall we take one more, and just at the back here?
Just in relation to what you're saying about different lights in different places, obviously the light in Rochdale is a bit different to Greece or Australia. Do you change the colours or the tones that you use for the place, or is the light that you get there?
Not too much. I mean, I would like to, but being a spray paint user, I am super limited. I've got a choice of how many colours is in your range of paint, mate?
2.
No, I think is it 218 colours, the Montana Black 2, 216 colours, but of those, the vast majority are primary punchy tones that I never use. I use really dull tones next to dull tones to make it look like a punchy tone, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes you look at my colour palette, and yeah, I understand why you would say this, it just looks like grey. But when you use that grey next to that grey, it'll look like blue. And when you use that grey next to that grey, it looks like red. But I don't have enough browns. Like, realistically, I've got a choice of 30 browns that I can use. And one of those browns might be good for the light of a Grecian island or something, but I don't have any of the others that could go with it. So I can't choose it. So I generally, like you said, I have my standard list that I can send off, and I tweak it for each wall if it has a theme. But I don't think they provide us enough for me to be that geeky. I would geek out on that like crazy, man. Like I would have a UV sensor that tells me what Kelvin scale the light is. I really would. But I don't know. I suppose you do. But maybe when I'm further north, I use a cooler reflective light. Maybe I'm thinking about my murals, and maybe it naturally happens. But we don't have any other browns. We have cooler greys and blues, but we don't have any warm tones to choose from, really. Good question.
Does anyone else want to take this? Do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you did.
I can add something. Again, I don't have this option to change the colors, and also I don't have the option to only use spray paint because my palette is so limited. It's just red and blue. So if the wall is too big and the reds are like 6 different, codes, then I can't order 30 spray cans of each code. And what happens if I run out? So I use bucket paint, and sometimes the store runs out of red. Happened once. So you just have to be flexible depending on where you are working.
No, but I've seen you use yellows and stuff.
Where?
In Paris. You did a bird, and it had a yellow beak, but when you look at it through the lenses, the yellow looks like red or blue or whatever it was.
It looks like green. I didn't like that wall, yeah.
Yeah, no one liked that wall. No, but it proved that you can use the full spectrum of colour and not lose your 3D effects, right?
Yeah, but exactly. But you lose a little bit of the identity, I think, or I just don't want to change it.
Lazy.
So I think we're rapidly approaching the end of our time. Believe it or not, it's been almost 2 hours, and I think that has flown by, to be honest with you. It's almost 9 o'clock, so I thought we're probably good to wrap up now. I just want to say a massive thank you. You've been so gracious with your time, and you've answered so much. I think this has been like a masterclass, to be honest with you, of street art and graffiti expertise. It's a fantastic festival. I really, really hope that everyone here will try and get round to some of the excellent activities that are going on. I think everyone's got the festival guides. I think there's been some tote bags handed out as well. And listen, just have a great time. Enjoy the walls. Enjoy exploring Rochdale. It's a fantastic place, and the art is going to be second to none. Before I give a big thanks to these, when you walk out, do be careful because that's a really slippy floor. So just be mindful of that. But thank you very much, and a big round of applause for our panel.
Can I just say a quick thank you to these guys and the other artists that have come. Like, honestly, this stuff doesn't happen without amazing artists. But also to Rochdale Council for listening to me when I've told them what we need. To Jamie for running around like a nutter. For Chris for having me back and being like my brother from another mother. And basically Holly, Faye, Jeff. Like, honestly, we've got such a good team, and I just hope we can carry on doing this and carry on working together and building something that, we can all be proud of. So yeah, massive thank you. If I've forgotten anyone, sorry. And you know what? I've got to do it, and it's slushy. But thank you, V, for being such an amazing girlfriend. Like, you literally helped me make this breakdown. And you'll help me out when I do have a meltdown later. So thank you very much. And Stuart, thank you.
Oh, bless you so. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.